Today's lesson is going to deal with our next assignment called the Shaded Sphere Assignment. And in this assignment, students will be drawing circles and shading them to become three-dimensional spheres. And here's an example of a finished product where we have a light source coming from the upper left-hand corner, and each sphere is shaded with that light source in mind, and then a background is created for part two. But I'd like to start with part one for now. First thing you need to know is that we're going to be doing a pencil sketch drawing, and we call that graphite. And it's very important to know that different types of pencils give us different results. For example, any pencil that has a 2H, an H, 4H, 6H is going to be a very hard type of lead, and it's going to give us a very soft line. So the higher the number, 2H, 4H, 6H, the harder the lead and the lighter the pencil line will be. If we go into the B range and we get a 2B, 4B, 5B, 6B, etc., the higher you go here, the softer the lead is packed and the darker the line will be. So we're going to start our assignment using the H pencil. We start all designs, all pencil sketches usually with an H pencil so that we can graduate to a darker value as we go to the B. So the first thing we're going to do is draw 4 circles using a template on our sketchbook. Here's a template. All you need to do is find a relatively small circle and draw it 4 times on your piece of paper for our activity. We're going to shade each of these spheres with a light source in mind, and I would say if we could normally have the light source coming from the upper right-hand corner, that would be effective. Light travels in a straight line, so when we know that light travels in a straight line, it's also going to affect where the cast shadow will be. You don't have to worry about the cast shadow in this assignment, but you do have to be aware of the light source for this activity. So with the light source being in the upper right hand corner in the first sphere, we want to shade the sphere using a technique called hatching. And hatching is the use of line drawn, little hatch marks all going in the same direction, kind of parallel to one another. The more you overlap the hatch lines, the darker the value would be. So because the light source is coming from here, up here, and this is going to be where the highlight is, our shadow is going to be opposite the light source on the sphere. So I'm going to start by just hatching close to the edge for the shadow, creating a shadow. And I like to have the hatch lines kind of crawl up the sides of the sphere so we know that the sphere is round this way and it's going to be three-dimensional that way. So you have to keep the lightest part of the sphere in this area. So to create this illusion, you don't want your hatch lines to get too long. You want to keep them nice and short. And you keep overlapping, overlapping, overlapping until you get the degree of darkness. Now I would be starting out with the H pencil, and by now I would start to put, when I want to add it more dark, I would go to the B pencil and start to create a darker value over here. Chances are you want to at least bring the value at least halfway. Now notice my lines are not getting real straight because I'm holding my too far back on the marker. If I go very close, I get much harder lines. So I want to have loose hatching lines, so I'm going to just come back a little bit more and continue to go up the side. So I want this part to be my highlight, my middle value, my shadow. And with a pencil you can create that much better. So this is called hatching. The next circle, we're going to shade the same way. The light source coming from the upper right-hand corner. We're going to use something called cross-hatching. So it's cross-hatching. And in the cross-hatching technique, we will basically not just hatch in one direction, but then we'll go in other directions. And every time we add more hatch lines and overlap, it gets darker and darker and darker. So I'm going to start by just, in the darkest area, the shadow area, I'm going to just start by shading using the hatch lines. And again, I would be using a 2H or a 4H pencil. So you're going to get a really different feel depending on the type of shading technique you're using with line. Now, all of these are using line. So here we are using line to create gradation and to create form. So no longer is this a flat circle, but we're hoping it will become a three-dimensional sphere. Again, as I get closer to the light source, I could put my hatch lines further apart or just lighter. I could use my H pencil. Go back in with B here. So, the next circle we'll use a technique called scumbling. And scumbling is basically just little scribbles, this is not scumbling. That is not scumbling. So you don't want to just go over and over and over again like that. You want to just go in all different directions. And in this instance, I usually go really close to the tip, and I really kind of create a feeling of overall scribbles. And I go in all different directions, and I overlap all the time. And of course, where I want it the darkest, I'm going to overlap the most. And I'm just going to continue to do this until I am happy with the feeling of a three-dimensional sphere. And then my last sphere, I usually try and experiment, and I do a combination in which I use all the techniques in the first three in one. So I might hatch, then I might do a little cross-hatching, do a little scumbling, hatch, go back to hatching. And just play around a little bit to see if I can make this effective. Obviously, I probably want to hatch closer to the light. Okay, and so now what I'd like you to do is to practice those four techniques in your sketchbook, shading 4 spheres with hatching, cross-hatching, scumbling, and a combination technique.